Tail insurance is that necessary evil that comes with having a claims-made malpractice insurance policy. It's expensive, yet critically important to ensure your long-term protection against claims. But what happens if you forget to buy the tail? Or if you were promised a tail by your previous employer and they dropped the ball? Well, in today's episode, we're going to tell you what to do immediately upon discovering that your tail has lapsed to help you minimize the damage and fix it, if at all possible. Stay tuned. Welcome to Malpractice Insights, the show dedicated to helping healthcare professionals understand medical malpractice insurance and providing you with the solutions you need so that you can get back to the work of practicing good medicine. My name is Jennifer Wiggins, CEO of Aegis Malpractice Solutions, and I'm so glad you've joined us today. All right, let's jump in. It can be absolutely sickening to realize that your tail insurance offer has lapsed. And it could be for any number of reasons. Maybe you didn't get the bill, or you just got busy and forgot to pay it. Or maybe you had someone else in charge of managing your coverage and they simply made a mistake. It's actually more common than you may realize. Just the other day, I received a call from a doctor who discovered that her previous employer had promised to buy her tail, and they didn't. And now she's 6 months out with no insurance. So why is this a big deal? Well, if you had a claims-made malpractice insurance policy and the coverage lapses without buying tail, not only are you uninsured at the present time, but you're also uninsured for any prior work that you've done all the way back to your retroactive date, even if you paid your premium for years and years. Each claims-made policy has a retroactive date listed. This retroactive date is the date that your insurance policy covers you back to. So if your insurance policy had a retroactive date of March 1st, 1990, that policy covers you for any potential claims made for services that you've rendered all the way back to that date. So if you let your policy lapse without securing tail, you're not covered for any of the work that you've done all the way back to March 1st of 1990, and that's a really big deal. If you try to secure new malpractice coverage in the future, it's going to be a huge red flag to the underwriter if you have a significant gap like this in your insurance history. So, what should you do if you find out that you're accidentally bare? Well, you need to immediately contact an agent to discuss the situation. Be honest about what happened, even if you let your tail lapse on purpose. Depending on the reason or the circumstances at play, there may be some options to request a special accommodation to reinstate your tail offer and give you a second chance to buy it. If you've been with the same insurance carrier for many years and never really had an issue with late payments in the past, and if this was simply just an oversight, then chances are they'll be willing to reinstate your policy and give you an extended period of time to secure your tail. If you're not able to have your old policy reinstated, then your agent will have to go to market for you to look for replacement coverage. Be sure to provide as much information as you can on what kind of insurance you had before, when it canceled, and any other noteworthy items. Understand that your options may be limited. If too much time has passed, the number of insurance carriers willing to pick up this exposure for you will be few, and any replacement coverage may or may not cover you for the entire time that you've been bare. The longer that you're bare, the harder it will be for you to find replacement coverage that matches what you had before. There are carriers who can sell standalone tail, which is tail insurance offered on its own, not from the carrier that you were insured with previously. If your old carrier is not willing to give you another offer to buy tail from them, then one of these other markets may be able to give you a second chance to secure tail coverage. If you can't get your tail reissued or can't find a replacement tail solution, your next option is to secure a new malpractice policy and to ask the carrier to backdate your coverage as far as they're willing to go. While carriers aren't usually excited about this type of request, many will be able to help you out within reason, especially if you're being honest about your situation and you're willing to stay insured with them for several years in the future. Again, the sooner the better with these types of requests. Don't let too much time go by before you secure new coverage. If a carrier is willing to pick up your prior acts and cover previous bear work, then you need to stay with them for the foreseeable future. That's the least you can do for them bailing you out. Sometimes we'll have a situation where a doctor has been uninsured for several months, and the new carrier is not willing to backdate their policy more than 30 to 60 days. And if this happens, you may still have a small period of time where you're going to be uninsured. So that's a risk you're going to have going forward. If you are able to secure new replacement coverage or have your old policy reinstated, the insurance carrier will likely ask you to sign what's called a no known loss statement. This is a document signed by you in which you represent to the best of your knowledge that you're not aware of any adverse events or claims that may have occurred between the time when your policy canceled and the time that you're reapplying for reinstatement. In addition to the no known loss statement, the carrier will likely require you to pay all past due premiums or charge you a rate that accounts for the additional exposure that they'll be picking up. It's important for you to know that your options will indeed be limited when you're looking for a carrier to pick up coverage for you over a gapped period of time. The best malpractice carriers have pretty strict underwriting guidelines, and oftentimes they won't even offer coverage for these types of situations. There are, however, several non-standard carriers that are willing to pick up hard-to-place business or cover doctors who are in a distressed situation. But the coverage that's issued through non-standard carriers is generally more limited in nature. For example, most non-standard carriers do not offer occurrence coverage. They only have claims made. And they typically have a hammer clause, which means that the policyholder does not get consent to settle claims. Non-standard malpractice insurance is also more expensive. So not only are you going to have a more limited policy, but you're also going to be paying a higher rate. For most providers, coverage in the non-standard market is temporary, and it is seen as more of a rehab period while they get back on their feet. You may have to stay with your non-standard carrier for a period of time before you're able to move back into the standard market. Assuming that you pay your premiums and there are no other issues with your coverage, most doctors are able to switch back to a more competitive coverage option within just a few years. In order to prevent this from happening to you, here are a few tips to leave you with today. Number 1, make sure that you have negotiated the terms of your tail insurance up front with your employer. It should be crystal clear who is going to buy the tail, when they will secure it, and how proof of coverage will be provided. We do have some previous episodes on how to negotiate coverage details with potential employers, so we'll link to those in the show notes for you. Tip number 2. Make sure your contact information is up to date with your carrier, including your mailing address, email address, and phone number. The carrier does have a legal obligation to give you an offer to buy tail insurance upon canceling your policy, and most carriers will do everything in their power to make sure that you've been given the opportunity to secure it. But if they don't have your correct contact information, then they won't be able to get a hold of you. So it's up to you to keep this information current with them. Number 3, make sure your office manager or your administrator understands the risk to you if your malpractice coverage lapses. This is one of the most important protections that you have as a healthcare provider, and it is a pain in the neck if you accidentally let coverage lapse. So make sure that they are diligent about handling your malpractice coverage appropriately. And tip number 4, work with an independent agent to give you an additional set of eyes to ensure that you don't miss a payment or have any other issues with your policy or your tail coverage. Your agent will be kept in the loop if you have missed a payment or have any other issues with your coverage, so they can help you stay on track and assist you with any other questions that you have with your policy throughout the year. If you have any questions on this topic or you want to make sure that you're covered appropriately, click the link in the description box below where you can connect with us via phone, email, or chat today. And if you're listening, please visit us online at aegismalpractice.com. That's AEGIS malpractice.com. And of course, if you haven't done so already, don't forget to give us a like and a follow. And I'd really appreciate your feedback if you could please leave us a review. Your support really does help us to reach more people, and we're so grateful for your clicks and your kind words. This is Jennifer Wiggins. Thanks for joining us.